form and call the meeting to order, and we'll move to the preliminaries until Jack gets here. So, it's 4:04. We have a quorum. Let's start moving. The first order of business would be approval of the minutes of the October 16th regular meeting. I have a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion.
I second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Chip, did you ever get in touch with that guy?
I called his phone number and left a message. I sent him an email
Okay.
and no response.
That's kind of where that's kind of where I am too. I actually talked to him once, but he was gonna call in last week and didn't call in, so I still think it's something we ought to consider doing, but, you know.
I think it would, and I just read their website, so I don't know, I'm not that knowledgeable about it, but I think it would give us a little accurate tracking of airplane operations. Not everyone's ADS-B, but the T-6s are in the military, and all the corporate airplanes are. So,
Okay.
I
Is
mean,
this the one that comes through FlightAware?
I don't know.
You know, FlightAware came to us in Gulf Shores, and they put an antenna up, and we monitor it, and then we get the free service.
Well, that's kind of what they wanted to do too. They would bring us, we would pay to have the installation, and they would give us the equipment, if you
They
will.
did all of it down there, so we had
Mike,
it now.
do you have a contact, or you have
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should talk with them as well.
Yeah.
I'll find out who it was.
Okay, that'd be a good idea.
He actually called, and David answered the phone one afternoon, and he said, yeah, they'd like it. And then you get your $1,000 free service from them for
And
For
it
service.
wouldn't, we have something to gain and nothing to lose.
Yeah, and we have.
I'll get you that copy.
Okay, I'll give him a holler.
Okay, moving on, update on the East Side construction project. You know, they've started, contract, permits have been issued. They've actually, they had a construction meeting, they have a construction meeting every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. They will not have one tomorrow. But last Wednesday, we had Kyle and Joe Baggett and and Mark Delaney in a pretty spirited conversation about the closings for the connections. And I think everybody's on the same page. There's gonna be some disruption, but I think it's manageable. But we've got to do it. I mean,
I think, didn't y'all discuss, or maybe just doing the first connector at the very end of the runway, then when you wouldn't have to close as much runway and get that complete.
you'd have to have 1,000 foot variant. You have 1,000 foot. You can basically land. Kyle could land the plane doing that. The only one he would really
When we
lose
took the whole
on the other one. So I think there's a plan. Everybody seems to be cooperative in a cooperative spirit. So we'll just do what we need to do to get it done.
So we're tying that south taxiway, we'll have a 4,000 foot runway.
Well, when they do the one on the far north,
We'll just lose 1,000.
you'll lose 1,000, so you'll have a 5,500 foot. When they do one on the middle, you'll be down to 3,500 feet. So that will impact operations, but they probably can do that in 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Okay. So that's really it. And I'll, they're 3% complete or something like that. I mean, the clock started, and that's kind of where we are. Okay. All right. Number 4, report of the agricultural leases for our tenant farmers.
All right, we have collected from Mr. Fuego and Mr. McKenzie. Mr. Street will be contacting Josh this week, and we've both reached out to Mr. Fuego, but we haven't
Mr.
been able to
Childers.
get a hold of him.
Mr. Childers.
Yes,
Yeah, you got it.
Mr. Childress, excuse me. So,
Hey. How are you? Hey, Lewis.
so we're still pursuing Mr. Childress.
Okay. I appreciate your hard work on that. That's a long time in coming, and I'm glad we've moved on with that. The next order of business is the review and approval of the noticeability for the East Side hangar ground leases. Pam, are you and Vince gonna
Yeah.
tag team that?
Yeah, we are gonna tag team that. So, we had a good nitpicking session, taking it apart, and a good discussion. And one of the things was, let Vince explain why we're only going after 2 pads at this point.
Yeah, you'll notice, I guess we'd call it final plan. We wound up with these 5 pads along here because we moved the FBO here, moved the future fuel farm to here. So once we finish this phase of construction, our pavement's gonna come in and end right there, and then we'll have this ramp space here. But we won't have this road, or fuel farm road, or this, but we'll have this ramp space out to here, and then this long ramp here, and then of course the new connectors. So these two are the only two that really are gonna be available until we get a road across here that actually have road access, and then we kind of be going in next year. So we're talking about, and I think Josh emailed everybody
The revised vote.
Yes.
Sorry to do that sooner, but I emailed it out yesterday.
Yeah, and they got that, and so then as Pam said, we nitpicked that thing to death. Actually, Pam nitpicked it to death and we agreed with it. And being honest, they would, and Pam found a lot of good things, and we had a great conversation. It was Chip and Pam, myself and Bill Pennington, Josh, and Hank Eubanks. So we went through that in detail, so we think obviously something's gonna have to change, and as we go along, we'll find somewhere where we need to adjust that. But it looks like we're ready to go ahead, start picking a date that we wanna advertise, and we have some availability here. There are a couple wrinkles. One, if one of these tenants wanted to be one of these 2 potential fuel farm tenants, that's not gonna be there.
Mhm.
They could take their lease and it could come later when it becomes available, you know. And of course, if neither one of them wanted it, it'd be a moot point. But if they both wanted it, they could sign up and start building and have access here and do everything. And obviously, we talked about this, the goal is to keep any construction equipment off of our new ramp. So both of these hangars could be built from the same service road that we're doing our own construction right now.
Is there any way for that hangar on the bottom? Yeah, I've had somebody who said they were definitely interested in building there. In the timeframe, they didn't think through how they would get through it. I didn't represent there would be a road in the back. Couldn't they have access down the runway? I mean, down the taxiway?
Yeah, they have access, everything's hashed right here.
Yeah.
That will be there, but we don't want them to do construction,
All
And-
that equipment.
and then you really don't want vehicles.
Could they come in through the back with there's a road behind there, it's just not paved.
Right, they would have to take that lease, understanding that they've got a somewhat gravel road back here, but they could develop their whole lot,
Mhm.
yes. Every one of those could be developed.
Yeah.
Most folks are not gonna wanna put a $1.5 million hangar in the gravel road out there, but.
Well, they might. I mean,
And somebody might want to, might not be an issue to them. But we can't guarantee them
yeah.
that this is coming because we do not know that we're gonna get the funding for next year. So, yeah,
Hey, Jay.
so, that would have to be a stipulation also. So
Do we,
we got these 2 available and some stipulations that we could do others. If you understand you're not gonna have a road, you're not gonna have a building for a fuel farm, and that would all hopefully come a year from now.
but if somebody came back and said, I want to pay 27 cents and I want to build 12,000 square foot, I want to build it here, do we have the flexibility in that document to allow them to do that?
Yes,
Okay.
I think we do.
That's-
Don't y'all?
What do you think, Josh?
We need to just revise it. Right now, the way it reads is that we're just advertising P10 and P11.
That's correct.
So, I mean, we just need to add the other ones in there and also add the proviso that there's not going to be a paved road to P12, P13, P14. And I'd say the proviso that there shall be no construction on.
They should, construction equipment cannot access.
Construction
Yeah.
equipment cannot access.
But they can access
via
it through the back, yeah.
Pad, yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, if they wanna take a gravel road through the back, is there a gravel road?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
There's a pretty good road here that all of this construction's been done on, so they've maintained the road pretty well.
Okay.
It's a mess.
And that's what they're using now to construct. They're not using our main road to construct, although the
Okay.
gate was open.
They're not doing anything through here. Everything comes from here, construction.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the only place we would cross over this road would be for here, here, and here
Mm-hmm.
in the future, and to build that, and everything else would be done on this end, all the way around.
Be that way, okay.
So, yeah, we could very easily put a note in there that these two are available 100% road access.
With road
except
access,
that-
right.
That's not really true, because somebody, I'm not gonna write on your drawing, somebody might want their road access to be here, and it's not there.
Yeah.
In this case, it's gonna be there for this one.
Mhm.
That makes sense. If they could shift it down and put it over here, but if, technically speaking, that's the only one to be 100% road access. This does have side road access,
Mhm.
and then these would have gravel road access.
Yes, sir.
Anything else? I guess we
We
need
just
to
need to-
footnote
We said
that
we
12,
put the-
13, and 14.
The fence, to prevent them from getting on here too, right? But right now, we've got a fence there.
Yeah, we're probably gonna need a secondary
Mhm.
fence, we talk about, we're gonna need a secondary fence just to stop folks from driving out onto the,
Make sure
however, we
they
need to
don't.
give them access, but we don't want that to become their everyday
Mhm.
access.
Okay.
They want access to get out here, when they're
Yeah.
loading, unloading luggage, et cetera, and leaving, but not to go out here every day to pull into a hangar.
So we're still 15 months away from what we want to really do, but we can certainly get some hangars. I mean, that's, show a proof of the business model. That would be good.
We had a lot of conversations about taking a deposit.
I think that's a good thing,
If you
typically.
want it, and
Yeah.
then it's available for you, and, it'd probably be non-refundable. We never really got to a number.
Well, $10,000 is in that.
Yeah, that's what I put in
Yeah.
$10,000.
We did get a number.
That's that would show, that would be like having skin in the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Hank had a term for that, it's escaping me right now, I forget what he called it. It wasn't a qualification.
He was talking about that on the bond.
Right.
I forget the term he used.
Which we put a performance bond and a labor and materials.
Now, help me with a performance bond. Performance bond just ensures the contractor is going to perform, Vince?
Yeah, if ABC Company's building this hangar right here,
Mm-hmm.
he gets performance, labor, and material bond from his contractor that he hires, and that way, if this guy goes out of business, ABC hangar goes out of business, or if the contractor goes out of business, this guy ain't got enough money to finish it, the bonding company will come in
Step in.
and finish it, which protects us as the eventual owner of it
Yeah.
and the one who owns the land. So that way we won't wind up with a half-complete hangar. We'll have somebody via a bonding company on the hook to complete this hangar. That's just good business.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
We're gonna vote on this notice of availability today?
I don't think it's gonna be quite ready.
Okay, because I was gonna say, I may have to back up on this conversation some if we're gonna do that.
No, we can wait. I mean, I'd like to get it out 1st of January though, because there are people that truly are interested, and they're calling me, when are we gonna go?
What, did you bring up my, I don't know if you.
I mean, we just started discussing about the time you
I'm
walked in.
sorry.
so
Yeah,
that's all right.
I didn't want to have to rehash anything.
No,
The only thing you missed was that I questioned why we had 2 hangars, as opposed to 3, spots located. And someone had expressed an interest in getting that far hangar closest to 13. And even though there wouldn't be a road behind there, they could still access it through the taxiway.
But the reason that we had limited, we had discussed at the last authority meeting that if we limit the number that we put on the market at a time, we'd get a better price. Doesn't mean that we have to wait 6 months, we can wait 1 month. So I believe that was the reason why we had limited
You
it.
probably missed the part about, these are the 2 that,
Right.
that they could have access to for construction. This would just be a dirt road.
But are we gonna try so hard to satisfy somebody that wants a far one that we put that up for lease at the same time?
Well, they can just pick that one if they want to. I mean, that'll be part of the 2 then.
We were talking about adding an amendment there that if you wanted this one, this with the understanding you don't have a road.
Yeah.
If you wanted to be one of the fuel farm guys,
I see that.
it's not there.
Right.
And you're taking that all
There'd be
on with that
caveats.
understanding with no guarantee that we're gonna get approved for our grant money to build this road next year.
I guess, and then that makes sense. The other points I made on the notice was that it had a fixed price on the land of 27 cents instead of a bid. So if it's gonna be bid on, we need to be very clear of what they're being evaluated on. If it's just gonna be leased and then we have a fixed price, and the first one that says, I want
I thought it
parcel A,
should
B, or
say
C.
at least 27 cents instead
No,
of.
it doesn't say that in
No,
there.
it says 27
It's
cents.
fixed at
It
27.
is.
But
We had a hefty discussion.
we don't know if, with FAA grant money, if you can vary the price. My understanding is you have to ask a fair market price, but in all the other airports I'm aware of, the price is the same. They don't, in talking to Vic Roberts at Gulf Shores, he said he doesn't think you can say, well, this lot we're gonna ask more for and you can bid on it. He thinks you gotta keep it consistently the
They
same.
actually did at one time have different prices
They-
in Gulf Shores.
They had different lease terms and the FAA, or they had to come in and modify the leases so they were all the
Then,
same.
then how, then what are you bidding on then? If you're not bidding on the ground
Right.
lease?
We talked about fuel, that's such a big variable, really.
Yeah, and then we, in the last
We're not gonna get into
process that we put estimate on there,
No,
and an estimate's just,
No.
can be an estimate.
Well, have you
No, on the
read-
last,
Yes, but you haven't read the latest one in its entirety?
I have, I was just
Okay.
saying that in the, let me finish first, Pam. In the last, not the last version, in the last time this was bid on,
Okay,
there was, the word was estimate, which
Right.
you can't
Mhm.
pin anybody down on that, so
That's correct.
we've fixed that then, right? It's gonna like be a minimum or something?
They have to document, or
They have to
should document.
they have to provide documentation of not just saying, I'll estimate this, but provide us the documentation that shows how much fuel
Right.
that you use.
But if we're, then that brings me back to, if we're gonna truly bid this,
Mhm.
what are we grading the bids on? Minimum fuel consumption plus value of their hangar, or is it gonna come down to strictly the value of the hangar? Or is it really a bid? I mean, if we're gonna evaluate them, we have to let them know, and that doesn't let them know the criteria that we're evaluating the bids on. You know, last time we did it on A plus B plus C, high number one.
That's correct.
If we're eliminating A, if it's fixed, we're down to B and C. So B,
Well, we did put a minimum value on the hangar, the value of the hangar.
$500,000.
Minimum size.
Then there's the price for the land, and then the language we have in there about the fuel.
okay, if two people agree that their hangar will be at least a minimum of 500,000, by definition, they both met the minimum, that there's no value. So now you're down to fuel flowage. Once again, I don't know how you're evaluating the bid. How do you determine who
I think
wins?
the question is whether it's a bid or it's a notice of availability and first come, first served.
Right,
Based on
that's
the-
what I'm saying, or is it just a lease?
That's what I think.
And so it sounds like we're really
I don't
just
think-
getting to a lease, it's
Yeah, I
not a
don't
bid
think-
process.
yeah,
I
I
think
don't
we're
think
just telling
bid is
people
the
that
right
they're
term.
out there. I don't think it's, I mean, I hope that 7 people come in and say, we wanna buy this, then we'll have to worry about it. I mean,
It'd be wonderful if 10 people showed up and
Yeah.
said, hey, we've got to create a bid
Or
criteria.
when we had it limited to just a few parcels, that was the idea, to create some competition to drive the price up.
Well, that was because we didn't have that road. Nope, we don't have that road. That's why we limited it down to this. We could take leases on all of it, but we only have roads right now for those two. And then hopefully next year we'll have roads for these 3.
Do we have an escalating clause in there?
well, that would be in the.
That'll be in the lease.
That'd be in the lease.
Negotiated in the lease.
There's escalating language in the existing lease on Bone and Ray.
Okay.
And it's, you know, every 5 years, with the cost of, the CPI adjustment.
Do you have to put that in there, in the notice?
I mean, I
And
The
do you,
notice advises them that a form of the lease is available.
and we'll.
That escalation clause will be in the standard
Okay.
form. It just won't have numbers in it.
Okay.
You know, I think the current ones go up based on the consumer price index each year.
Yeah.
And so that a similar clause will be in the sample lease. We then have to fill in the
The
numbers.
sample lease has got all the environmental issues. I mean, it's a pretty, I mean, that's what the FAA looked at, is a sample lease.
and do they need to be, I mean, I know that we all know that, but does it, in the notice of intent, does it need to state that the capital improvements will become the property of the Fairhope Airport Authority in 30 years?
We can put it in there.
It needs to be in there.
That wasn't in there.
It's not in there.
That's what a 30-year lease is, though, it reverts, but we should spell that out.
Should be explicit.
Yeah,
I think you give them as much, you don't leave anything to chance.
be as pointed as we can be, so we say, oh, I didn't understand.
But that's all I had on it.
We need to, one thing we talked about was by January, we'll have a pretty good estimate of what our time frame of completion of this phase is. And that's when we really want to go out for the solicitation for leases or whatever you want to call it. In January, we can say we anticipate completion this time. Nobody will have anything ready before the time we're gonna get caught in a cross deadline.
So waiting another month is not, is kind of, that puts it, so we can get this thing out in December. And,
So
but I do get 3 calls a month about people that are truly interested, not just in T-hanger leases, but people that are truly interested in building corporate hanger.
I don't have a problem with it being just strictly a lease agreement either, but I just don't want to sell it as a bid process if we're just leasing.
No, it's really just a notice of
sites.
availability. We want to tell people that we've got available property for them to build a commercial anchor zone.
I think we have 25 and 25 and a half on the 2 land leases on the other side. We put 27 on this one. For the simple reason it's newer, it's fresher, and feel like there would not be an FAA problem with us.
Yeah, I remember that discussion last meeting.
So,
And Allen's is 22 and Ray's is 25. So
that
there's.
one's 22,
Mhm,
Ray's 25.
mhm.
When does Allen's escalate? That's been signed now for
Well,
several years.
Probably a year from now. That's a trick, just keeping up with all the things that
Every
escalate. I mean,
5 years.
every
right?
5 years, yes, sir.
Mhm. I don't know how you stay on top of that. How do
Well, we
you-
just have to have a software. I mean, Continental escalates this year too. Continental escalates every 2 years. So, I mean, so it's already escalated once, and it escalates in January 2019. January 2019, it escalates again.
Not to throw the ball in our financial secretary's court, but if we're gonna do some projections, we might
Yeah,
need to
that's
get
what I was
those
just
on
seeing,
the
is
spreadsheet.
that in
huh?
here in the budget, escalating?
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
too. It
yeah.
is. It is in there.
But we need to
Oh, it
get
is.
Continental and Allen's and Ray's
But Allen's and
Oh,
Ray's,
even though
they
they're-
don't escalate this year.
3 or 4 years
No.
down.
But what would be really good would be to have a chart of all the contracts and when they actually mature, and then have because
Spreadsheet.
I just forget.
Yeah, yeah. I would.
Jack, that
I don't
notice of
have-
availability was for us to beat it up today, and then let's make any more corrections we need to make, and then vote on that.
I still think we ought to consider, though, the competitive bid, even if it comes down to the value, like I said, if the land is fixed and the fuel is, you can definitely say you have to be able to confirm it, but you could put either a minimum amount in your bid, because let's say you have somebody like Mr. Bone that wants to build a $2 million hangar, and the other person just wants to meet the minimum $500,000 value. I mean, the airport authority needs to get the $1.5 million worth of
Value created.
Capital.
I agree.
I mean, I would say that person has first dibs, so.
We do, but we gotta be careful not to discriminate under the FAA.
Well, it's a price, it's a bid based on price. That's what we did last time.
Yep.
I think this document gives us the flexibility to make good decisions.
I would hope that it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And we need to format it a little
Let's
better.
hope we have that
I really
problem,
don't,
then, yeah.
I really don't think that's gonna be the case. If it does, we'll just have to sit back and say, hey, we're gonna have to revise what we're doing here due to the level of interest.
Do we have language in there that we can stop and we can just not accept anybody's if it?
Yeah,
Yes, we do.
there is that
Yeah.
catch-all.
There's
Okay.
that catch-all
We
phrase.
reserve the right
Overall
to-
provision that says the authority can reject any and all
Okay, well, that may be.
bids. So, I mean, really, I guess where you run into a problem is if you have 2 people bid on the same pad
Mhm.
and say, that's the one we want, and then you're trying to figure out a way to sort of break the ties.
Well, that's what I was saying, if you just release it a little at a time, and you say, we're gonna let these 3, then, whatever you estimate the value of your improvements are gonna be, has first choice where there's a conflict or something. But you must build something to at least that minimum that you state.
Also, we might need, if someone wants to build an FBO, might need to say, I wanna build an FBO, I understand I gotta build this parking lot. Let them tell us what they wanna do.
You gotta look at that.
That's available off this road right now.
How much you willing to pay?
But we need to let everybody know that one's available also.
Yeah.
I would think with it, we'd probably need to tie those two together, so this FBO could have overnight storage, this potential FBO could have overnight storage for airplane customers. We need to tie those two together, when that makes sense.
It would.
Yeah.
So you talk about somebody to come in and build it and operate it as an FBO?
If somebody wants to,
We have to get, we'd have to get with Continental, obviously, and
well, Continental can bid on it if they want to.
they can.
Okay. All right, so I guess we've got some fine tuning left to do with the idea on the December meeting that we'll knock this thing out and get it out. Does that make sense? Okay, thank y'all, Vincent and Pam. Okay, number 6 is, this is something we should have done last month. Approval of the name change for Continental Motor Services to Continental Motors Incorporated in respect to the 2004 lease extension. I mean, it's pretty,
I move to approve the name change.
Second.
okay. Is all those in favor of approving the name change for Continental Motors, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank y'all.
They're gonna update insurance certificates and all that.
Yeah, we'll get them to provide updated information for insurance and everything else, so.
Is that a new separate company or?
They
It is
collapsed.
As I understood it, it's a merger, so CMI was already an existing company that CMS merged into with CMI as a surviving entity. Arguably, we didn't even need to do this, but just out of an abundance of caution, I felt it was better to go ahead and have that simple documentation to reflect the name change.
And Rhett Ross asked us to do it. That's probably a good enough reason. 7, Chip, you want to talk about that?
Right now, we got 5 runway lights out, 1 threshold light on the south end out, and 4 taxiway lights out, which is well within the acceptable 10% that we have.
Probably
They-
3% or 4% is what it.
I think the FAA allows.
Well, I mean, this is 3 or 4% though. This is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot less, and Kyle's aware of it. He's working on it. The NOTAM for the runway closure at night has disappeared. Kyle replaced 2 circuit
Yeah.
boards, and it hasn't happened since then. It's kind of a process of elimination. You know, we had about 5 items it might be, but it's pretty expensive, so this is a first step, and I think
Second
the most,
step.
second
Second
step, the
step.
most logical step. If it happens again, then we'll have to go further.
Okay. So I appreciate the report, and just as a commentary, I mean, last year this time, we were, I mean,
We were a mess.
we were a mess, and we've done a lot, Chip's done a lot of work to get us to this point.
Kyle's done, he's helped us a lot too.
Yeah.
He's out there, with his job, so
Yeah.
that makes a big plus also.
Okay. Update on request for qualifications for airport engineering consultants. That's just kind of where it is. I think we've changed the date to December 16th, which is on a Monday. I checked the box this morning. We hadn't gotten any in. I don't think that would surprise me. I think everybody would wait till the last minute to walk them in. But I certainly have had some. I know at least 2 people are going to propose on it. So anyway, that's kind of where we are. Vince, you got any feedback? You got any calls?
No, we got those couple emails, and we responded, and then Josh sent out a thing changing that to Monday, the 17th.
17th is, the original deadline was the 15th, it fell on a Saturday,
Okay.
so we extended it to the next business day, which was that Monday.
I think that's been the only question asked that I've seen.
And it's been, before the meeting, I gave to Chip the affidavits that have been received from the newspapers in Mobile, Birmingham, and Huntsville certifying that it's been published for 2 consecutive weeks in each of those areas.
All right, next item is flight line manager's report. I guess everybody from Continental is going home for Christmas, Thanksgiving, so, I'll speak to those ones I can speak to. The repair weather stripping, they have gotten the weather stripping for 10 hangars, and they are repairing them as they have manpower to do them. So that's being done. We had an update on the security military fuel contract. On Amy's suggestion, we reached out to
Alan back.
Alan Beck, who's a retired Air Force colonel who was spearheaded, I guess, Airbus's entry into the the tanker contract, and he knows a lot of folks in the Defense Logistics Agency. He welcomed this challenge. I sent him a couple of names. We have done a few introductions. I felt a lot better about this than I felt in almost 2 months. I really think that Alan, I got an email before the meeting saying he was not going to be here at the meeting, but he was on top of it, and he wants to, he's going to go, we're going to go over to Naval Air Station in Pensacola and make our pitch. So we'll see where we are.
Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
sir.
I have something to add to that as well. I spoke to Congressman Byrne
Yeah.
in person about this, and he immediately told his aide to start contacting, I don't know the names of the people that he was telling him to contact. What he said was, and I want to say this is in agreement with what I heard in here in the last meeting, was that the pilots can somewhat choose where they choose to refuel. Is that true? That's what I thought
Yeah.
I heard. And correct me if I'm wrong, they do some refueling in Gulf Shores. And apparently there's like a little room that they can go have coffee and things. And so I think we need to talk, we can't force Continental Motors to provide that, but I mean, Lord knows they want to sell fuel.
No,
so.
I think they will provide that.
I think they will. So I think we just need to talk to them about maybe having I'll call it an open house for
Sure.
lack of a better term, to try to get the pilots there one morning or something and just try to do something special for them. Just
If you don't do it, they won't come. I mean,
and that's what I was told that's going on in other places. And so
There's two versions there. The air card guys, they can go anywhere they want to go.
okay, but they don't have to have a contract, they can just pull
And
it
then
in
you have a
tomorrow.
military contract that's specific to an airport and a vendor.
But they're gonna go where the food is.
Yeah.
well, we need to start getting the food out there.
But
sometime.
the air
Well,
card guys,
but the
they
contract
definitely
has-
go where food is.
Well, there you go.
For that one, the contract has to be there before they can choose to.
Yes.
Yes. And they have to, I mean, I know, they used to give the food out for free, and then they came and said, you can't do that, you can't. So
Right.
Well,
the pilots have to
Joe's
pay $1 and they get, whatever.
Joe Baggett's been looking into like getting some food trucks out there on certain days and so forth.
But
as
what
an
we're gonna need,
enticement.
they're gonna need something bigger where they have a facility, the place they have at Gulf Shores, they can go
Yeah.
in and brief and debrief and eat, and have coffee and
Any
drinks.
pilot can go in and get shorts. They would like for you to buy some fuel from them,
I mean, I told Joe, maybe even now I think about, if they do get it, is put a trailer up temporarily, just as a place for food and briefing rooms until something can get constructed.
That's a possibility.
We just need to get in the game, and that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to do. We're not in the game now, and Jack, we appreciate that, and I have every confidence that Alan will kind of move this forward, so,
Generically speaking, the
Gulf Shores, so you
T6 is
can
on the air card.
see it.
Find it out
Sir?
there if I-
Generically speaking, the T6 is on the air card, the helicopter.
Sounds good.
military fuel tank.
I'm kidding for this.
we get lots of, we get lots of helicopters too.
What were you kidding about?
Get
I told him I'd
the
take you
flight
down
from
to
here
Gulf
to Gulf
Shores.
Shores to check out the food.
He said, find me down there.
Number D, I like, this is something, one of the tenants, or one of the people that lease hangar space wants to build out one of the N units at one of the T hangars as an office and briefing space location.
I think the space is there. He
The
hasn't
space
had
is
to add
there,
on to
it's
it.
basically
It's
storage
empty.
now. He's gonna build it out, it's gonna contractually gonna work out something with Continental. I think he'll spend $5,000 to $7,000. It'll be an improvement for us. I think this is a win-win situation. It'll allow him to move his facilities. He wants to build a full hangar on the east side, but allow him to basically, this will be a starting point for him. So, and I don't think we need to approve this, I just wanted to make everybody aware of it, if you would. I hope, does anybody have any negative It's
As
about
long
a,
as he
what,
builds it up to city standards.
So I was gonna say, as long as he complies with the zoning ordinances in
And the
City of
minimum,
Fairhope.
and the minimum standards,
Yeah.
okay,
you know.
yeah, I'll tell him we get approval, but he needs to get a building permit, that's,
Yeah. I
Um,
think that the light industrial would encompass anything that they would be doing, but it'd be good to check.
okay.
Yeah,
That's all
Um,
in one now, right?
yes.
The final thing is something I keep these things on there until we get a resolution of it. You know, we've got those generators out there, and we need to have a program where that generator's started every month to make sure it works.
Well, Kyle got it up and running.
Yeah, but I mean, he ain't done it in 6 months, so either. So I want to, I don't know, I'm still, I don't
guess
have,
it's not one of those ones that starts itself.
no, it doesn't start, yeah. You gotta check the oil, you gotta do certain things, and you gotta run it once a month, make sure it works.
It doesn't start itself in lieu of a power outage?
I don't think so.
Well, I think if there's a power outage,
Does it?
Should.
it should. Because if power outage, who's gonna run
Well,
over there and start it?
didn't you bring it up that,
I happened to be in the air one night when someone hit a transformer down the road and the generator did not crank.
well, that's what I was saying, I mean, that was,
There
yeah,
were no lights.
yeah. That's the worst, you know,
I
we
think
have
it's
a,
supposed to.
yeah.
So
You,
know,
was it, when you say you did that, was that at Fairhope?
in Fairhope.
Okay, well, that's a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago, I was flying into Fairhope and they hit a transformer 30 minutes before I got to the airport and the generator was not working. I was talking to a guy who was using his handheld radio who drove out there to see if it was working, who I was asking to pull on the end of the runway and shine his lights at me when the power came back on.
I mean, that would be I mean, no amount of liability insurance could cover that.
I just assumed that it automatically came on if we had a power outage.
It should.
Yes.
I think it-
Kyle
I
probably
think
knows
it'd be
more
on a
about it than
regular
anyone
schedule.
else.
Kyle does,
Yeah.
and Thompson wants to sell me a service contract. Jack, y'all just put one in at the fire station, and what I'd like to do is we could enter into maybe a service contract where we basically pay half of it every month or so. I mean, they just put one into the volunteer fire, I'm sure Thompson wants to sell them a service contract too. And y'all I mean, supposedly you're gonna put them in all your backup, pump stations?
I mean, there's 62 of those. That'll be
A
a
lot of
long
money.
time coming, but, we're
You just
little by little adding them to the critical ones. Yeah.
I mean, they don't need
I
good.
mean, like, you don't necessarily need one at the end of the line, but,
Yeah.
That can't be a huge expense.
It was more, it took I can't remember what it was.
yeah, it really can't be. I give you an example. They do weekly fire, the sprinkler system pump runs at all the condos at the beach, and they typically charge about $50 a week to do that. So you're talking about something that's done monthly, and I don't know how much more involved it is. Probably not much more
Check
involved
the
than
wall
that.
started.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna keep this on the list, and I'll get you a solution by the December board meeting.
I'm like Chip, you check the oil and start it, and every 6 months you actually need to flip
It
the power
needs
on.
to be.
I mean, I think Kyle
for
could,
5 minutes.
I think that would be, check the one, and then every 6 months have Thompson come out there and look at it. That might be the
See
best.
something he
solution.
might be interested.
Yeah, he would be.
What is it fueled by?
Kerosene.
Kerosene.
It's not natural gas, so that's
So
down.
it's
Well,
kerosene
it's
with
natural
that.
gas, this one's kerosene.
Hmm.
We got a tank for it.
Do what?
We have a tank for it.
I think so.
Yeah, we do.
I think it's diesel. I might be wrong, but I've only seen it from a distance, but I think in talking to Kyle, I don't think it's natural
Of course,
gas.
it's been there a long
So
It's
we
been there a
treat,
long
we
time.
treating the fuel if it sits there for months or years?
No.
No.
Hopefully we're running enough, we can run some fresh fuel through there.
That's something we need to check into.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's on the list, and it'll stay on the list. All right, number 10, Amy?
Right, okay. So I have proposed a new financial report that's in your pack. This is a format I use in my day job that is kind of a little bit, where you should be able to see at a glance that if we're on track or not. So at the top is all the expected revenues for each type of revenue, year to date, and then at the,
Excuse me, am I at the right meeting?
yep,
Yeah.
We're updating.
That's bragging on me.
We're updating.
Say I'm
Okay,
impressed.
Okay, so basically this takes the budget that Joe put together. It's not updated, I just realized, just sitting here, it's not updated to the most current version, but I will get that updated next month. So we have the budget that we'll look at next, for each month on each one of the types of revenue and the expenses. So the bars in the graph at the bottom, the bars show, the blue bar is the actuals for that month and the orange is what was budgeted for that month. And then the lines are year-to-date. So once we get a couple months in, we'll be able to see if our actual line is tracking to our plan, just looking at it. If you open the Excel version that you get in your email, then you can click on those little circles and you can look at each one by itself. But then it's just quick at a glance, we should be able to just know we're on track or not. Later in the year, if our projection starts to deviate from the budget, then we'll be talking about that here and we can show our projected end-of-year landing over there on the right. And then we're just using that little comment box to talk about anything.
And why hasn't Continental paid their October rent?
Because it got lost in the mail.
Should have sent a FedEx.
And the
Why don't we have a direct transfer into our bank accounts?
the eye checks, but I mean, it got lost in the mail.
Well, in this day and age, I think we ought to set up a,
Then do a direct deposit.
yeah.
They want to.
And then and then the state has a problem cutting checks in September, so they're one behind, and they catch up usually.
Yeah, they did get this one in,
Yeah.
so that one's deposited now in November. And this is where I was confused, I didn't see that Joe had updated the land rent to expect 16,000 in October, which we did get most of.
And then the other thing, we have, how we usually give you the maintenance, those extraordinary items, the maintenance and the ground maintenance and building maintenance. She's got that, she captured that here too in that little
Yep.
side box.
Yeah, just down in the expenses in that little box, so I'll just use that to put, because those are really the only things that are exceptional or
Mhm.
different from month to month. Most of the other things are pretty standard.
You know, Jack, you were bragging on this wonderful young lady. She's been to 3 meetings and realized that we need pictures and colors.
I was making sure, I didn't know.
And then at the bottom,
Thank you.
for me, this is helping me feel more comfortable with kind of how the cash flows in and out throughout the year.
This
So-
is, I mean, you can't imagine how important that graph is, just to know where your seasonal cash flows and knowing that we have cash, pretty much to pay the bills and make the FAA contract grant. I mean, what a great idea, a 13-month rolling average, what a great idea.
And then my plan is, because there's some other things on the old report about the fixed assets and debts and all that, and I was planning to just have a page for that once a quarter, because there's just not that much movement there. So I would do that in January, April, October, if that's okay.
This is great.
It is
good.
wonderful.
This is-
Good. Makes it easy, so that's why I like it. So the next thing on the agenda, so we've gone, so if anybody has any suggestions on this or questions, just let me know, I'm happy to tweak it. On B, we've talked about this exceptional things were the fixing the runway lights that we've already talked about, and then troubleshooting those radio controls, so those are the only repair items. So now we can look at the budget. So this is the same budget that we looked at last month.
And we held it over so people could review it more, but it hasn't changed, it really hasn't changed any, but this is the budget.
So, and it does show the escalation on the Continental lease in January, so that's good.
That was purely by luck. though. I'm not that good.
Why is the land rent from farming zeros? Is it because it was collected in,
Because it comes in a chunk in September.
So they just,
So we got the past due rent, and then we're getting this year's
Yeah,
coming in right now,
In Sep-
right?
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
then everybody's paid up for the rest of the year.
Yes. yeah.
So if there's no changes, we need a
We need to,
motion.
we need a motion to approve the,
Make a motion.
that's it.
okay, all those in favor of approving the 2018-2019 budget as presented, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so the next thing on my list is, we're making a proposal to use,
Kathy Calmetti.
Kathy Calmetti as the authority bookkeeper as of December 1st. So Joe and I met with her last week,
Couple,
2 weeks ago. She does the Eastern Shore Chamber of Commerce, a couple local restaurants and convenience stores, I think, are her clients. She's been in business 20-something years over at, her office is just off Parker and 98.
Then she was recommended to us by Greg,
Bryant Bank.
Greg at Bryant Bank.
Greg Strong.
Greg Strong, and she does the Chamber of Commerce's, the Baldwin County Chamber's books too.
So we don't have anything in the packet about this.
But,
So
yeah.
she charges $300 a month, and that would be covering her coming to pick up the checks and invoices here at the box twice a month, making our deposits, preparing the checks for signature, doing the accounting entries in QuickBooks, using our same chart of accounts, providing a monthly report to me and the city that they need for their, whatever they do, and then providing the data to the auditors.
And reconciling the check,
reconciling
reconciling the bank statements. And the only thing that changes, she did both Bryant Bank and PNC is the new proposal.
In providing that to the auditors, that gonna help get us out of that $10,000 a year assessment.
Well, we're gonna pay $5,000 this year, because we don't have to have a single tax audit, and then we're gonna fire them next year. We're gonna get our own audit, we're gonna negotiate our, so answer your question is, because in last year we didn't have a true, our audit fees will be under $750,000, or, I mean, our grant was under $750, we don't need a single audit. So I've already told the Warren Averett audit, I thought $5,000 was a fair audit fee for us, without having to test to that single audit. And I think he tentatively agreed, although that's a Jill decision. Now, next year, all bets are off, because we'll have a $4 million grant, and we probably need to look maybe somewhere else to get an audit. But that's not, they're well into the audit this year. But everybody knows we're unhappy.
If we get a certified audit elsewhere, Jack, city gonna be happy with that? Not trying to put you on the spot.
And I don't think we have to try to make them happy. do we? We get a certified audit somewhere else. I mean, if they're gonna try to,
To save money, I mean, we're.
if they're gonna try to, yeah, I mean, if they're gonna try to hit us with some big number and,
We're under the gun to save money, so.
right,
Okay.
that's what that's the reasoning I would use.
I think we're trying to be good stewards of our money and the city's money.
Right. That's what I would say.
But that's not a decision for this year, because they've already done the bank confirmations, and they're well into it.
Where does where's the audit expense in the expenses
Well, it may not
and
be.
budget? I didn't see
Yeah, I
that.
don't think I
It's
saw
in the
that either.
professional fees, it should have been in professional fees, but I may have missed it.
We have 14,000 under professional fees
Okay, that's what we're doing.
altogether, so
Let me look.
1,200 a month.
Josh's is in legal.
Yeah, legal separately, separate.
Now, 14,000 that would be the audit. Yeah.
And then what about the bookkeeper, if we have a bookkeeper?
I didn't have that, that's not in the budget, that would have to be professional
I
services
think there's
too.
gonna be 5, and then we go to 3,600, we've still got more professional fees than we need to cover.
But last year, when we dated Continental Motors, we spent some money on appraisals and things like those go there too. So, again, that's just a, an estimate, yes, I mean, but what'd we spend last year? That's a good number.
17,000 last year.
Well, yeah, we're fine.
And we spent about
We spent $8,000 dancing on Continental Motors.
in one shot.
Yep.
So it's almost half of that
Mhm.
on that
Okay.
potential deal. Yeah, we're good with that
Okay.
14.4 there.
Yeah, for now at least.
Yeah,
and
I
then if
mean,
it changes
I
or
didn't,
something
we'll
comes
budget
up.
it next year, and, yeah. But I thought, Jack, I know you thought 300 was a little much, but I think for what we're getting, we-
The audit support
Yeah.
helps a lot.
Mhm.
and she's, I think, very talented.
Yeah,
But-
she's easy to work with.
Let's don't, this is a big step for us. I mean, this is taking off the training wheels. And we got a lot of support from the treasurers for a long time. We always had this is a big step for us. It'll be
And
some-
when would we want to start that?
December 1st.
Next week?
Mhm.
Okay.
Or we could start at January 1st.
Well, I mean,
We've kinda
we've
told-
paid we've
Yeah.
paid all the bills through December.
Mhm.
So I'd like to go ahead and start
Yeah.
while we got some time. I'm a little bit slacking.
Do we need to vote on that?
I think we do, Jack. So there's a motion to basically move in-house for our bookkeeping using Kathy Cometti's bookkeeping service at $300 a month.
Are you making that motion?
I'm making that motion.
Okay, I'll second it.
All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank y'all.
Okay, and at the same time, now with Mike Henson gone from the city, we're having to change the signatories on the bank account. So we held off till we decided about the bookkeeper. So the proposal is for the Bryant bank accounts, which would be the operating account, and the money market accounts. The signatories would be Jack Burrell, Joe McNerney, and myself. We're proposing an internal policy to have 2 signatures on any checks over 10,000, but not requiring 2 on anything less than that. The bank won't enforce the dual signature anyway, so it's up to us just as a word.
As an SOP for us.
Yes, standard operating
It's an
procedure.
internal audit procedure.
Yeah.
So that's one. So, and we will need this in the.
Yeah, we'll need to have this will have to be
in the
written up in
minutes.
the minutes, because they'll want something, a resolution.
Yep.
And then the proposal for the PNC account, which is the grant administration account, would be Jack Burrell, Joe McNerney, and Belinda Joe with the city. And those would all require 2 signatures because they need the city and the airport authority. So,
Require 2 signatures, and one of them has to be the city.
mhm.
Mhm.
Is that correct? On the P&C?
Now, one of them has to be, because the city is the grantee. We're gonna talk about that in a second. That's a real disconnect. We were asked to move everything, but the city is a grantee on all these, on this FAA grant, so that they've gotta be committed to the grant process.
But just the PNC account has to have
2 signatures.
Right.
That's all the money that we get from the FAA, we put in the PNC account. We don't commingle.
But not the Bryant Bank account.
Not
And
the
the
Bryant
city
Bank.
won't have any signatories on the Bryant Bank account anymore. With this-
So
Okay,
if we make a motion on that, that's where we're going to write it up, so.
I'll help you.
Well, now, the city's not precluded from having a signature on there, a signer on there. Since I'm an officer of the city, I can still be on the Bryant Bank account, although I'm not signing on the city's behalf.
No, you're on the Bryant Bank
Yeah.
account.
No, I know, I'm just saying, she said the city
Oh,
won't
yes.
have one, so I want to make sure that's not
Okay.
prohibited.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, good point.
Okay,
no.
okay.
Hate those little technical issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and I'm not, this is on the PNC. Or this on,
Bryant Bank and PNC.
but Brian's, okay, this is a motion on Bryant Bank and PNC as far as how we structure the bank accounts as
And
outlined.
signatories.
The signatory is already on those
Yeah.
2 accounts.
Okay. So that we have a motion, we have a second.
I second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay.
Just one more thing.
Okay.
The final thing is that we need to review the grant procedures. In that, don't have that.
That's the other hearing.
We submitted to you in May, we approved the AIP, revised AIP grant oversight procedures. We basically, what was an audit finding last year from Warren Avery that we needed grant oversight procedures. And we wrote them. I thought we did a pretty good job of them. We ran them by a couple of people and they said they were pretty well written. The city never approved them, which is an issue. So this time I've revised them. I took out the treasurer, and the city needs to approve them on Monday night, Jack. They're in the board package. And this is, the reason we have to have this is because this is what they call the
Did you
single.
send that email to Lisa?
I said, yes, sir. She said if I got it to her, if there weren't any changes to it, she could just use it and reconfigure.
When did you send that to her?
This morning early.
Okay. I don't remember her mentioning it, but just wanted to make
Okay.
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's aware of it. But basically, it outlines a procedure as far as, everything as far as just
Okay.
administrating the FAA grant. It's pretty comprehensive. The city still has to be engaged, so that's.
Can you make a mental note to just check with me tomorrow
Yes, sir.
afternoon? We'll finalize that
Okay.
tomorrow. So just double check with me
And if
and
it-
make absolutely certain it made the agenda.
And I'll go to a work session if you want me to, but I'd rather explain it in a work session than I would in the
Yeah.
front of the,
You can.
it is kind of, it's in the weeds a little bit,
Yeah, yeah,
okay?
I agree. Okay.
Okay, so I'd like a
Why don't
motion.
you plan on coming to the work session for
I'll
that?
plan on doing that, okay? Anybody questions?
Now, I'll move to approve the revised AIP grant oversight procedures.
I'll second that with a comment. I think Vulcan reviewed this also.
Oh, Volker helped, Volker gave me a template to start from, Vince. I didn't just,
And my
I
memory
didn't,
is correct.
I didn't start with the scratch,
That's
I didn't
where
start
it
with that,
started.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take a little personal pride in this. Kevin said he thought it was one of the best things. Kevin Morgan, our guy, said he thought it was really good, and he would recommend it. Actually, he asked me for a template, to use it for other folks.
That's good. So I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor of approving approving the audit procedures as outlined, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
I didn't say it, but aye. Sorry, I wasn't thinking.
Were you on yes or
I
no?
was just
Didn't say
thinking.
no.
Any other business?
He's on the fence.
We want to introduce Louise.
Luis Perez. Jack and I met with him, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He has a potential interest in, looking at some land on the west side for an aviation-related business. It's a pretty interesting
Yeah.
concept that he's got going, pretty interesting business being in aviation, and I think it's.
To me, it really caught my
It's-
fancy,
it's-
but
It's pretty neat.
yeah. So it could be the Sister Schuberts of batteries or something. It could be something really that would be really neat. So anyway, so thank you for coming. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And anything else? Any comments from the public? You're the public.
Good evening, David Barker, Goodwood Mills and Kaywood. Just wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And to you as well.
Ben Harrison said to tell you hello.
And is there movement do we need to go into executive session or do we?
I don't think that we do.
There are a couple of things out there, but I think they're too premature.
I got a phone call about one on potential land lease, so if we could do that, it'd be good. I got that phone call today.
So you want to go into executive session?
Okay.
And I wasn't concerned about it because I thought we were doing it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, then let's go ahead.
We can go into executive session to discuss the price that the authority is willing to accept for potential land sale. Somebody just needs to make that in the.
Yeah, make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right.
Oh,
We'll-
all
we'll-
those in
Yeah,
favor?
just
All those in
And
favor,
we-
all those in
we do a
favor.
roll-
And
Can we do a
that we
roll call
add-
vote? for
Yeah, and you also have to
And-
state about how long we're gonna be, approximately how long we're gonna be in executive session.
But I think we also have to invite our attorney into the executive session.
And
Yes.
Amy too.
Any non-board member, well, Amy's a board member.
Yeah,
No.
before- yeah.
So she's an officer, she does,
She's an officer.
okay. Yeah, any non-board member to go into executive session must be invited in the motion to go into the executive
Okay, would
session.
you like to amend your motion to include all of that?
And y'all want Amy to go too?
Yeah.
I'll amend my motion to include Josh and Amy.
Okay. And we'll adjourn from executive session, or will we?
You have
did
to
you-
take a vote.
Okay. All those in
He wants
favor?
us to do a roll call.
Okay, go.
And you have to have a time estimate. We'll be in executive session for approximately,
What I want to talk about is 5 minutes, so say 15.
say 15.
And I've got one thing, so mine will be 5 minutes too, so,
20
Okay.
minutes, okay.
okay.
20 minutes at the most.
So roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Okay, Jack?
Aye.
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 So we're gonna actually move over, we're gonna stay. Recognizes that, we've moved out of executive session. It's 5:20. I'd like to,
Move to adjourn.
move to adjourn. Thank you, Mr.
So
Burrell. And all those in favor of moving to adjourn?
Aye.
Thank you.